Welcome back to the deep dive. And I want to start today by just admitting something that I think a lot of you listening are probably feeling right now. I am exhausted.
Exhausted. That's a strong start.
Yeah.
Just in general, or about something
Well,
specific.
no, specifically about the topic we're tackling today. We're talking about the brain,
Okay.
and specifically the male brain versus the female brain. And to be honest, it just feels like this is the most loaded, shouted about topic in the world right now.
It's the culture war battlefield du jour, for sure.
It is. You go on social media, you open a newspaper, and it's just this constant tug of war. And it feels like there are only two camps.
Mhm.
You've got Camp A, which is men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We are basically different species, completely different wiring.
Right. The binary view.
And then you have Camp B, which says there is zero difference. Biology is a myth. It's all social conditioning, 100%.
The blank slate view.
Exactly. And I'm just sitting here in the middle thinking, surely it's not that simple. It can't be one or the other.
It isn't. And I think that exhaustion you're feeling it's really common because we're trying to force a very, very complex biological reality into a very low-resolution cultural conversation.
Low resolution.
It's like trying to play a symphony on a kazoo. You just lose all the nuance,
Yeah.
all the beautiful complexity.
A symphony on a kazoo. I am stealing that. So what are we actually doing today? Because I have this stack of research you sent over, and it looks pretty thick. Are we picking a side in this war?
We are absolutely not picking a side. Our mission today is to try to elevate the resolution of the picture.
Okay.
The materials we're diving into, we're talking neuroscience, developmental psychology, endocrinology. They all suggest we need to just throw out the scorecard approach.
The scorecard being what? Like men do this, women do that, check, check, check.
Exactly. Point for team blue, point for team pink. It's useless. Instead of looking at humans as these static caricatures, the stoic man, the emotional woman, we need to look at a timeline.
A timeline.
We need to look at the human lifespan. Because the way biology and culture interact changes drastically from when you're 5 to when you're 15 to when you're 50. It's a moving picture, not a snapshot.
One phrase in the reading really stuck out to me, and I kind of want to just paste it on my forehead for this whole deep dive.
Let's hear it.
Biology creates biases, not destinies. Culture amplifies or suppresses these tendencies.
That is the anchor. If you get nothing else from this hour, get that. Think of it this way. Biology is it's like the default settings on a new phone.
Okay, I like that.
It comes out of the box with certain tendencies. But culture is the user. Culture downloads the apps, changes the wallpaper, adjusts the brightness, and the individual. They're the one holding the phone, deciding which apps to open.
So we're moving away from pink brain versus blue brain.
We're moving toward what the researchers are actually calling the Mosaic mind.
The Mosaic mind. Okay, I'm ready. Take me back to the start, and I mean the very start. Let's talk about childhood, because I look at my friends' kids and I see the little boys wrestling in the dirt and the little girls sitting in a circle telling stories, and it feels so stereotypical.
It does.
Is that just us, the parents, projecting?
Yeah.
Or is there some hardware at work there?
There is hardware, but probably not in the way most people think. When we look at that 0 to 10 age range, the biggest neurological difference isn't really about ability or personality. No, it's about timing.
Timing? What do you mean timing? Like who develops faster?
In a specific sense, yes.
Yeah.
We see a phenomenon that developmental psychologists call asynchrony.
Okay, asynchrony. Break that down for me.
It just means things are developing out of sync at different speeds. And generally speaking, what the data shows is that male brains tend to mature a little more slowly in terms of executive function.
Okay, executive function, that's a term I hear all the time. But what does it actually mean in a 6-year-old's brain?
Think of executive function as the air traffic control tower of the brain. It's located in the prefrontal cortex, right behind your forehead.
Right.
It handles impulse control, planning ahead, staying seated when you really, really want to run, and regulating your volume.
It's the indoor voice center.
Precisely, the don't throw your peas on the floor center. Now, statistically, this system comes online and sort of hardens a bit later in boys.
Okay.
And at the same time, young boys often have a higher baseline of physical activity and motor drive. So you have a gas pedal, the motor drive, that is pressed down a little harder from the start.
And a brake pedal, the executive function, that's a little spongy.
A little spongy, that's a perfect way to put it. So when the kindergarten teacher says, "Johnny, why can't you just sit still?" Johnny's brain is literally not wired to answer that request as easily as, say, Jane's might be.
Yeah, it's not necessarily defiance. It's a regulatory lag.
It's a lag. Now, on the flip side, We often see female brains showing earlier development in language centers, Wernicke's area, Broca's area,
Yeah.
and in social cue processing.
They get the software update for reading the room a little bit
A
earlier.
bit earlier, yeah. So they're quicker to pick up on, is the teacher happy with me? Is my friend upset? That kind of emotional data.
Which explains so many playground dynamics I see. The girls are navigating this incredibly complex social hierarchy, who's friends with whom, who said what, who's mad at whom, and the boys are just running into walls.
It can definitely look that way. But here's where we have to be so careful. This is the first big trap.
That's the trap.
We look at that 7-year-old girl with her advanced verbal skills, and we say, see, she is inherently more social or empathetic. We look at the boy running into the wall, and we say, see, he is inherently aggressive or wild.
We're confusing a timing difference for a permanent trait.
Exactly. You're taking a snapshot of a race where people started at slightly different times, and you're judging their lifelong speed based on that one photo from the first lap.
That's a really powerful way to put it. And this is where the psychology layer comes in, right? Because kids aren't dumb. They're trying to figure out how to get by.
They're survival machines. And the primary psychological drive of childhood, according to the sources, is mirroring.
This is the whole who am I phase.
Yes, but a child can't answer who am I internally yet. They don't have the self-reflective capacity. So they answer it by asking an external question. Who notices me? And what do they notice me for?
Oh, that's profound and a little terrifying as a parent.
It is, because this is where that cultural feedback loop kicks in. Let's go back to that little boy with the slightly higher motor drive and the spongy brakes.
Okay.
He bumps into something, he throws a ball really hard. His dad sees this and says, wow, good arm. You're a tough little guy. You're a little athlete.
And the dad immediately goes out and buys him a baseball glove and a helmet.
Right. The culture, in this case the dad, takes a small biological bias, a nudge toward movement, and amplifies it into a full-blown identity.
Yeah.
You are the athlete.
Well, if he'd sat quietly and drawn a picture.
Dad might have just said, oh, that's nice, and moved on. The big reward, the mirroring, came from the physical act.
Okay, so now flip it. What about the girl with that early verbal advantage?
She's talking a lot, she's telling stories, she's noticing her mom seems sad and asks why. The teacher sees this and says, you are such a good communicator. You are so helpful and kind.
So she gets steered toward relationships, communication, emotional caretaking.
Exactly. We see these tiny, fluid biological nudges, and we pour concrete on them. We cement them into these rigid identities. If you reversed it, if you took that high-energy boy and strictly, lavishly rewarded him only for sitting still and talking about his feelings, and you punished him for moving, he would turn out very differently.
But we generally don't do that. We lean into the bias because it's easier.
It's the path of least resistance for society. So by the time we hit 10 or 11 years old, we've already spent a decade building up this boy identity and this girl identity, and then puberty hits.
Oh boy. The Great Divergence, as the reading called it.
The Great Divergence.
I shudder just thinking about my teenage years.
I think most of us do. And for good reason. If childhood is about these small statistical biases, adolescence is about massive biological tsunamis. This is the one point in the entire human lifespan where the sexes are, on average, most different from each other, both physically and neurologically.
All because of hormones.
Because of the surge, the flood. We need to really talk about what testosterone and estrogen actually do to the brain, not just the body. It's not just about beards and periods.
Okay, let's break that down. We all know testosterone makes you grow a beard and lowers your voice. But what is it doing to the mind, to the decision-making of a 14-year-old boy?
Testosterone is a powerful modulator of the brain's reward system. It doesn't just make you aggressive. That's a really crude simplification.
So what does it do?
It changes the risk-reward calculation. It dramatically amplifies the dopamine hit you get from achieving status, from winning a competition, and from sexual pursuit.
So the potential risk of doing something stupid doesn't look as scary, and the potential reward of looking cool looks way, way shinier. Significantly shinier. It essentially turns the volume knob on the go for it. Drive all the way up to 11.
Okay. Now, what about the female puberty experience? You have the onset of cycling estrogen and progesterone.
Right. And estrogen is a very different kind of modulator. It's heavily linked to social attunement, affiliation, and bonding, the desire to connect.
So it's a relational hormone.
In many ways, yes. But it also increases the brain's sensitivity to stress. It can make emotional experiences feel more intense, both the good and the bad.
So while the teenage boys are being biologically pushed toward competitive risk-taking, the girls are being pushed toward hyper-social awareness.
Yes, intense social mapping, a constant internal monologue of where do I fit in this group? Do they like me? What did that look? She just gave me mean. The female brain at this stage becomes this incredible high-fidelity instrument for reading emotional subtext.
But the downside is what? All that processing turns inward.
The downside is internalized stress. The anxiety of the group dynamic becomes visceral. It's not just a thought, it's a feeling in your gut. Now, you mentioned earlier that the brain is uneven during this time, which seems like a massive understatement.
It's the critical mismatch of adolescence. In both boys and girls, the emotional centers of the brain, the limbic system, the amygdala, the seat of fear and pleasure, they mature very rapidly during puberty. They are fully online, screaming with these new hormones.
The engine is revving at full throttle.
Full throttle. But the prefrontal cortex, that air traffic controller we talked about, the center for judgment and impulse control, it doesn't finish building its runways and towers until your mid-20s.
So you have a Ferrari engine.
And bicycle brakes.
That explains everything. It explains my entire high school experience.
And interestingly, the research shows that the brakes tend to mature just a little bit earlier in females than in males. So you have teenage boys who are, for a few years, biologically primed for maximum risk-taking with the absolute least amount of regulatory braking power they will ever have in their adult lives.
It's a miracle any of us survive. It really is. But psychologically, the sources mention this really important shift. In childhood, it was, who notices me? Now it becomes,
who must I be to belong?
who must I be to belong? That's heavy.
This is what the researchers call the age of performative selfhood. In childhood, you just want your parents to notice you and love you. In adolescence, you need the tribe, your peer group, to accept you. And the tribe has very, very strict scripts.
The man box and the good girl script?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For boys, the script is often about competence, confidence, and stoicism. I am what I can do. I don't show weakness. I don't cry. And shame becomes the ultimate enforcer. If you show vulnerability, you lose status. You're out.
And for girls?
The script is often about desirability, harmony, and agreeableness. I am who I am to others. I must be liked. I mustn't make waves. The pressure isn't about external competence as much as it is about internalizing the group's needs.
I want to pause here because the source material brought up something really important. I think we need to handle it carefully. It's about the trans and non-binary experience during this specific chaotic window of adolescence.
Yes.
It seems like puberty is often the flashpoint where things get really, really difficult.
It is, and I think understanding this biological timeline really helps explain why. Imagine for a second you're a trans kid. You have a deeply felt internal map of who you are. Maybe you've known since you were 4 that you're a girl, but you were assigned male at birth.
Okay.
In childhood, the body doesn't matter that much. You can wear the clothes you want, play with the toys you want. You're just a kid playing. But then puberty hits. And suddenly, your own body starts doing things that feel like an absolute betrayal.
It's not just that you don't look right on the outside. Your inside is actively changing in the wrong direction.
It's a visceral horror, for a sense, that my body is mutating into something I am not. A beard starts to grow. Your voice drops. Breasts start to develop when you don't want them. The hardware is actively, aggressively fighting the software.
And this is happening at the exact same moment that the social world starts screaming at you.
Screaming at you to act like a man or act like a lady. So your body feels like an enemy, and the world is handing you a script for a role you know isn't yours. The dissonance is deafening. You feel completely out of sync with the play everyone else is performing so easily.
That's a really helpful way to frame it. It's not a choice or a phase. It's a fundamental collision between your biology and your identity.
Painful collision, yeah.
So, okay, let's assume we somehow make it out of high school in one piece. We enter young adulthood, let's say 18 to 30. The sources call this the age of optimization.
Or, as one paper put it, the age of building the container.
Building the container for your life. Does the brain finally calm down here? Please say yes.
It does, a little. The hormones begin to stabilize. You aren't getting those massive, unpredictable puberty spikes anymore. And crucially, that prefrontal cortex finally finishes the job. The construction is done. You get better breaks.
Thank goodness for that.
But just as the biology calms down, this is where society doubles down.
Doubles down. What do you mean by that?
Well, look at the reward systems in our culture for a 25-year-old. For men, the world basically says, go build, get the job, get the money, get the status, climb the ladder. Emotional integration, self-reflection, that's often seen as a luxury to be postponed.
I'll deal with my feelings later. Right now, I have to grind. I have to perform.
Exactly. The central question is, how do I build a life that works? Meaning is often postponed for momentum.
And for women?
For women, there's this really complex tension. The modern world says, be a CEO, be ambitious, lean in. But all the old evolutionary and cultural scripts are still running in the background.
The scripts that say,
be the nurturer, be the one who remembers everyone's birthdays, be the emotional hub of the family, manage the household.
the emotional labor trap, the second shift.
Right. So while many men are often encouraged to be hyper-focused on one-track external achievement, many women are tasked with managing this multi-track mind, trying to optimize both a career and relational harmony at the same time. And it's incredibly exhausting.
But then something happens. We hit 30, 40, 50, adulthood proper. And looking at the research, it seems like the plot twists again. This part blew my mind.
This is my favorite part of the lifespan data. It's called the convergence.
The convergence. It sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? But it's very real. As we age, the psychological profiles of men and women, on average, start to drift back toward each other. The great divergence of adolescence begins to reverse.
So is this biological, or is it just us getting older and getting tired of playing the game?
It's both. It's always both. Biologically, testosterone levels in men gradually decline after about age 30. Estrogen in women fluctuates wildly during perimenopause and then drops significantly after menopause. The polarizing chemicals that drove that adolescent divergence, they just fade a bit. Risk tolerance decreases for everyone.
But there's a psychological component too. The sources called it the switch.
The switch, yes. For men, what we often see is this. They've spent decades building the container, the career, the house, the status. They've won the games society set out for them. But they often hit their 40s or 50s and realize they feel empty, lonely.
The "is this all there is" moment.
Exactly. And so they start to reclaim tenderness. They become more relational. They want to connect with their kids on a deeper level. They want to repair their partnerships. They start prioritizing relationships over achievement.
I see this all the time. The dad who was a total drill sergeant when we were kids becomes the softest, sweetest grandfather who cries at insurance commercials.
It's a classic developmental arc. He is finally giving himself permission to integrate the parts of himself he had to suppress, to win at the game of young adulthood.
And for women, what's their side of the switch?
It's often the mirror image. Women, having spent decades prioritizing the needs of others, managing harmony, doing that emotional labor, they often reclaim their authority.
What does that look like?
They start setting harder boundaries. They stop people-pleasing. They might start a new career, go back to school, or just stop caring so much what other people think. They move from, who do I need to be for you, to the fundamental question, who am I for myself?
So we start apart, fly to opposite ends of the universe in our teens, and then spend the rest of our lives slowly drifting back until we meet in the middle.
We do. We move from playing a role to hopefully becoming a whole person. We integrate. And the source material points out that for many non-binary people, or just people who never felt comfortable in those rigid gender boxes, this later life stage often feels the most like home.
Because the boxes have dissolved for everyone else, too.
Yeah, exactly. The pressure to perform the man or woman character finally fades, and we're all just left with being human beings.
That's a great place to pivot back to the biology for a second, because we've mentioned hormones, testosterone, estrogen a few times. And I feel like we really need to do a specific deep dive on this because there is so much bad science out there, so much misunderstanding.
Well, the bro science on hormones is rampant. It's a nightmare.
Right. I think most people, if you stop them on the street, would think of it like this. Men have the blue chemical, testosterone. Women have the pink chemical, estrogen. And if you have the wrong one or not enough of yours, you're broken.
That is the binary myth. And it is 100% factually wrong.
So what's the actual reality?
The reality is that everyone has everything. Women have testosterone, men have estrogen. And not just in trace amounts, they are vital for health in both sexes.
Vital. What do women need testosterone for?
Bone density, muscle mass, libido, mood, energy. It's crucial. And men need estrogen for things like joint health, brain function, and even healthy sperm production. If you eliminate estrogen in a man, he becomes infertile.
Wow. So it's not exclusive ownership at all. It's just we have different recipes, different average amounts.
It's about average ranges. But, and this is the part that blows people's minds, and it's the most important takeaway about hormones, the level of the hormone in your blood doesn't necessarily tell you how you will feel or act.
Wait, hold on. Explain that. That seems counterintuitive. If I inject a bunch of testosterone, won't I automatically become a rage monster?
Not necessarily. You might just feel more anxious or get acne. Because hormones aren't on-off switches, they're signals. And for a signal to work, you need a receiver.
A receiver.
This brings us to the crucial concept of receptor density.
Receptor density. Okay, break this down for me. Use an analogy.
Imagine your brain is a house, and it's covered in satellite dishes. Testosterone is the signal being broadcast from the satellite. You can have the most powerful broadcast in the world, huge amounts of T in the blood, but if your house only has one tiny broken satellite dish on the roof, you're not going to get the channel. You won't feel the effect.
So I could have a blood test that says high T, but have low sensitivity to it because I have very few of those receptors.
Exactly. And the reverse is true. You could have technically low levels of testosterone in your blood, but your brain is covered in these huge, super sensitive receptors. You might react far more intensely to that small amount of T than the guy with high levels and low sensitivity.
So when people go get a blood test to optimize their personality, that's kind of useless.
From a personality standpoint, yes. Unless you have a genuine medical deficiency that's causing fatigue or fertility issues, it's largely useless for explaining who you are. You cannot look at a number on a lab report and say, yes, this number is why I like sports, or this number is why I'm nurturing.
The notes used a music analogy here that I thought was really helpful.
The tuning analogy, I love this one. Think of your entire hormonal profile as the tuning of an instrument, like a guitar.
Yeah, okay.
Testosterone might be like tightening the strings. It makes the instrument more resonant with certain notes like risk, drive, competition. Estrogen might be like a different kind of tuning, making the instrument more resonant with notes of connection or verbal flow.
But the tuning isn't the song.
The tuning is not the song. The brain is the musician, and culture is the genre of music you're taught to play. You could have a high testosterone tuning, very tight strings, and use that instrument to play a beautiful, gentle lullaby of protection and community building.
Or you could use that exact same tuning to play a heavy metal song of aggression and war.
Precisely. And you can have a high estrogen tuning and play a fierce, aggressive song of leadership and defense of your family. The tuning biases the instrument towards certain sounds, but it does not dictate the melody. The musician chooses the melody.
That is a huge distinction. It stops us from being robots controlled by our chemicals.
It gives us our agency back. Biology provides the instrument, but we are the players.
This leads us perfectly into the core concept of this whole deep dive, the mosaic brain. Because for a long time, science tried to find the male brain structure and the female brain structure, right? Like this chunk of brain here is pink and this chunk over here is blue.
We did. For decades, we searched for the gendered brain. And for decades, we failed. Because it turns out the brain just doesn't work like that. It's not a binary organ.
So what does the data actually show? If it's not pink and blue, what is it?
It shows that traits we associate with gender vary independently from each other. This is the mosaic.
Give me a concrete example of independent variation.
Okay, let's take 3 traits. Empathy, the ability to feel what others feel. Spatial reasoning, the ability to mentally rotate objects in space. And verbal fluency, the ability to produce words quickly.
Okay, 3 traits.
Now, statistically, on average, women score slightly higher on empathy and verbal fluency. Men score slightly higher on spatial reasoning. That's where the stereotypes come from.
Right, the averages, the scorecard.
But in an individual brain, any combination is possible. You could be a man who has high empathy, high spatial reasoning, and low verbal fluency. You can be a woman who has high verbal, low empathy, and high spatial reasoning. Each tile of the mosaic is separate.
So I can be an analytical math whiz who is also incredibly nurturing and deeply sensitive to art.
Yes.
And that's not a contradiction. That's not me having a male part and a female part fighting each other.
It is only a contradiction if you believe in the scorecard, if you think you have to pick team man or team woman. But nature doesn't care about our teams. Nature builds mosaics. Most brains are a mix of male-leaning, female-leaning, and gender-neutral features.
So why does it feel like a contradiction? Why do we feel the pressure to pick a team? Why does it feel so weird for a man to be openly nurturing or for a woman to be ruthlessly competitive in business?
That is the cultural feedback loop, again, in its most powerful form. We don't like mosaics. They're complex. We like clear pictures. We like binaries. It's easier to process.
So what do we do?
So when a little boy shows high empathy, we often shame it out of him. Stop crying, don't be a sissy. We try to smash that tile of his mosaic.
And when a woman shows high aggression or dominance?
We call her bossy or shrill. or worse, we try to dim the color of that tile. So what ends up happening is that adults walk around performing a caricature of their gender, rather than expressing the actual beautiful mosaic of their brain.
This brings up the big distinction between sex and gender. And I know this is where the internet usually explodes in a firestorm, but the definitions provided in the sources here seem really practical and useful.
They're operational definitions. They're designed to be useful for discussion, not to win a Twitter fight.
So how should we define them in this context for this conversation?
In this framework, we define sex as the biological hardware constraints. If you are biologically male, your body is organized around the potential production of small gametes. That comes with certain hormonal pathways, bone density potentials, puberty tracks. If you're female, your body is organized around the potential production of large gametes and gestation. Different plumbing, different risks for certain diseases.
Biology, the body's constraints, the hardware.
The hardware. And gender is the software, is the interpretive framework. It's how your specific brain, your unique mosaic of traits, makes sense of those body constraints within your specific culture.
So sex is the biological fact that I can grow a beard. Gender is the cultural and personal meaning I attach to that, whether I think having a beard makes me look wise or rugged or messy, or whether I decide to shave it off to present differently.
Exactly. The body provides the fact, the mind provides the meaning.
I want to zoom out a bit now. We've been talking a lot about the individual, the kid, the teen, the adult. But we live in a society, and right now, all these shifts in gender roles and norms feel bumpy, to say the least.
Bumpy is an understatement. The sources we're looking at describe what's happening as a massive, society-wide coordination failure.
Coordination failure. That sounds like an economics term.
It is. It's a concept from game theory. It's when a system changes one major part, but fails to change the other interconnected parts to match, and the result is chaos and inefficiency.
Okay, give me a real-world example of this as it relates to gender.
The best and clearest example is women entering the workforce over the last 60 years. This was a massive, positive, necessary shift for human rights and for the economy. Women moved from being primarily in the domestic sphere to being in the professional sphere.
Right, a huge change.
A huge change in Part A of the system. But now look at the support systems. Did the structure of the school day change?
No, school still ends at 3:00 p.m.
Exactly. And the standard workday ends at 5:00 or 6:00. So we changed the labor dynamic. Mom and dad are both at work, but we didn't change the infrastructure. Who watches the kids for those 3 hours?
So we basically just said to parents, and usually to mothers, congratulations on your new freedom and responsibility. Now go figure out these impossible logistics all by yourself.
We privatized the transition. We treated a civilization-wide structural shift as if it were a series of individual lifestyle choices. And that creates immense, unbearable stress.
Which leads directly to things like the dropping fertility rate that we hear so much about.
Precisely. You hear all these op-eds blaming millennials or Gen Z for being selfish or narcissistic for not having kids. But if you look at it through this systems lens, it's not selfishness at all. It's rational adaptation to a broken system.
If the system makes having kids a form of economic and logistical punishment because you have to work 2 jobs and school ends at 3 p.m. and childcare costs more than a mortgage and there's no village, then not having kids is the most logical move you can make.
Exactly. As one of the authors put it, social change without systemic adaptation doesn't free people. It forces them to improvise survival inside broken structures.
Man, that is bleak, but incredibly accurate.
We are all just improvising survival. But recognizing that it's a structural problem is the first step to fixing it. We stop blaming men for not stepping up or women for not wanting kids, and we start looking at the broken structure itself.
So let's get existential for a minute here at the end. We're in this modern post-industrial world. For many of us, reproduction isn't our central life goal. We aren't plowing fields by hand where male upper body strength is a huge advantage. In this world, how much does biological sex actually matter in our day-to-day lives?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where does the biology end and our shared humanity begin?
We've established it matters at the doctor's office.
Crucially, please never ever pretend your sex doesn't matter to your doctor. Heart attack symptoms in women look very different than in men. Drug dosages, disease risks. Our bodies are our bodies. The hardware matters in medicine.
But outside the hospital, in the boardroom, in the art studio, in a leadership role.
The data strongly suggests it matters very, very little. There is no such thing as a male leadership style or female intelligence. There are just human styles and human intelligence. Your mosaic of traits matters infinitely more than your sex category.
But we still have this deep-seated us versus them mentality. We act like the mind of the opposite sex is this mysterious, unknowable black box.
That is the great illusion. And I want to offer a thought experiment from the readings that might help break that illusion for you, for everyone listening.
I'm ready. Go for it.
Imagine you're a man.
Yeah.
And you are white temperament, introverted, highly sensitive, maybe a bit anxious, very analytical.
Okay, got the picture.
Now, who do you think you have more in common with in terms of your internal lived experience? A loud, aggressive, risk-taking, hyper-extroverted man, or an introverted, sensitive, analytical woman?
Oh, wow. Yeah, when you put it that way, it's not even a contest. I definitely feel a deeper kinship with the woman in that scenario. The internal weather is the same.
Exactly. The temperament overlap is massive. You share more internal landscape with someone of a different sex who matches your personality than you do with someone of your own sex who is your temperamental opposite.
But the label man makes me think I'm supposed to identify with the loud guy, that he's on my team.
That is the tragedy of the labels. They obscure our shared humanity. We look at the wrapper, the body, and we make massive, incorrect assumptions about the content, the mind.
This leads to the final concept I want to touch on, which is internal multiplicity.
The idea that we all contain multitudes. We are all mosaics.
I think a lot of people feel this, especially men, but they're afraid to say it out loud. The feeling of having so-called female parts inside them.
And women feeling they have so-called male parts.
Right. Like, I am a man, but I have this deep desire to nurture and be soft and connect. Or I am a woman, but I have this aggressive, competitive drive to conquer and build.
And the old binary model looks at that and says, uh-oh, paradox, error. Are you broken? Are you confused? Are you maybe in the wrong body?
And what does the Mosaic model say?
The Mosaic model says, congratulations, you are a complete human. Male and female are often just lazy stickers we've slapped onto universal human traits. Assertiveness isn't male, it's a human capacity. Nurturance isn't female, it's a human capacity.
So healthy multiplicity isn't about being fragmented or confused.
Not at all. It's about integration. It's about having access to the full keyboard. It's about being able to say, I can play the low assertive notes when I need to protect my family or lead a project, and I can play the high empathetic notes when I need to comfort a friend or create art. I don't have to cut half the keys off my piano just to fit inside a tiny cultural box.
That is incredibly liberating. It feels like we've gone on a huge journey here, from the tiny timing differences in kindergarten, through the hormone storms of high school, the optimization grind of our 20s, and finally, hopefully, to this integrated piano player in adulthood.
It is a journey, and it's a journey away from simplicity and toward nuance.
So if we had to sum this entire deep dive up, if we had to give the listener one thing to take away from this whole conversation, what would it be?
Stop looking at the scorecard. Stop trying to figure out if you're on Team Blue or Team Pink. Look for the mosaic in yourself and in others.
I have a final thought I want to leave everyone with. It's a question, really, that came to me as we were talking.
Let's hear it.
If we stop asking ourselves, which gender am I? Frantically trying to check the right boxes to prove we belong. And if we start asking, which human traits am I expressing right now? Do we lose our identity? Or do we finally find it?
I suspect we finally find it. And maybe we realize that the great mystery of the other sex was never about biology at all. It was just the mystery of other people.
I think that's the perfect place to leave it. Thank you for this. My brain feels full, but in a very good way.
Mine too. This was a great conversation.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.